Welcome to the Woodlands Area Chamber of Commerce Young Professional Network podcast, a show where we discuss topics related to business, lifestyle, politics, and other challenges that young professionals are facing. We want our millennials and Gen Z to strengthen today for your impact on tomorrow.
All right, welcome to another episode of our YPN podcast. This episode is a special episode. It's going to be covering from Marine Corps to entrepreneurship. Right here, you can go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Andrea. Josh Cherry, Marine Corps, Delta Life, Virginia. Excited to talk about all of it today. Thanks for having me on the podcast.
Absolutely, we're excited to have you. Okay. So let's just go ahead and dive right in, shall we?
Let's do it.
Yeah. So Marine Corps, when did you get into that? What attracted you to that route?
Yeah, good question. So I grew up in Southeast Texas, so as you guys probably know, Southeast Texas is a very patriotic type place, right? And I also graduated high school right after 9/11, right? So a lot of people from this area, that's just what you did, Right. So I always had that very patriotic, grew up in a very patriotic family, love for this country, wanted to go do my time. And it was right after 9/11, so I graduated high school. Went and joined the Marine Corps straight out of high school, became a helicopter door gunner, and did 3 combat tours with them pretty early on. So I went to Iraq in 05, 06, and 07. I ended up, was just going to join the Marine Corps, do a few years, come back home, and pick up a sales job or something like that, and ended up staying in the Marine Corps for 14 years.
Oh, wow.
Went straight in out of high school and ended up staying in for about 14 years.
Wow, that's amazing. So what was your time like during that?
Go ahead.
Yeah, so what was your time like? 14 years, that's a long time.
It was. The first 4 or 5 years, like I said, that was whenever I was really just the helicopter door gunner. It was fun for a young teenage boy to be able to shoot giant machine guns outside of a helicopter. The training and the camaraderie and all the people I met, just amazing. But it was hard. It was hard raising a family. Right. I was gone, from 05 to 07. I spent about 24 months away, and when I was home, I was always in Yuma, Arizona, training to get ready to go back over, whatever, like that. So when I finished all the deployments, me and Kristen, my wife, talked about it, and we're like, well, if we're going to stay in the Marine Corps, let's go get a non-deployable job for at least a couple of years. Mm-hmm. So I went to Yuma, Arizona, and did search and rescue, where we did mountain rescues with rappelling.
Oh, awesome.
Helping families that got stranded in the mountains or whatever. So did search and rescue for a couple of years, and while I was there in Yuma, one of my captains was like, hey, we should do these boot camps that are becoming really popular. We should hold boot camps for all the moms on base. So we kind of played with that a little bit. I filled out a commissioning package while I was in Yuma. So commissioning, going from enlisted to officer in the Marine Corps, you have to fill out an application. If you get accepted, they send you back to college while you're still in the Marine Corps. So while I'm in search and rescue, I get accepted for the commissioning program, and I get accepted to Texas A&M. So that's how I was able to come back to Texas after serving about 6 or 7 years in the Marine Corps, and go back to Texas A&M. And go through and become an actual commissioned officer. So I was trying to go from the back seat of the helicopter to the front seat. It's only about 4 feet, but it's about 6 years of schooling. Yeah. You got 4 years of college, 2 years of flight school. So while I was in Texas A&M, still a Marine, so I still had to have a regular Marine job, right? So while I was there, they made me what's called a PTI, a physical training instructor. So I would write the nutrition programs and the workouts for all the Corps cadets getting ready to go off to officer candidate school. Well, my son, he's busy in the community here now. He's one of the young professionals around this area. He's running a franchise consulting business now. Well, at the time, he was only 5 years old. And he had a little Cub Scout group, and we were running this Cub Scout group, and these Cub Scout moms came up and asked me one night at one of the Cub Scout meetings. They're like, hey, will you do a boot camp type workout in the parking lot for us like you do for the Corps cadet kids? So it just kind of happened, right? I was on this journey, Marine Corps, I'm at Texas A&M, we got the Cub Scout moms, and then these moms just came and asked me if I could put on a workout in the parking lot, just like I was doing for the Corps cadets. So I made a joke. I was like, sure, 5:30 tomorrow morning, we'll meet up here, and anybody that wants to try it, we'll do a 4-week camp. Well, 8 women showed up at 5:30 the next morning. Oh, wow. And that was the beginning of Delta Life Fitness, which eventually turned into a nationwide boutique franchise that serves just women. Delta Life's 3 uniques is that it's made just for women. It has 30-minute workouts, and it has on-site childcare. But like I said, today, Today it's got about 70 plus franchise agreement contracts, several studios open, especially before COVID, coast to coast, from California to Florida. We have studios open, and they look a lot like an Orange Theory. They rival like an Orange Theory and F45, but built just for the women. And started that in a parking lot back in 2009 with a handful of Cub Scout moms. So that's kind of my time in the Marine Corps. And then obviously going to flight school and getting to fly the helicopters. That was fun. And, but by the time I was, like I said, I had about 14 years in. So 6 more years and I could have retired from the Marine Corps. But my son, Hunter, the one I was telling you about at the time, he was 12, and I had only seen 2 of his birthdays. From traveling so much in the Marine Corps. I knew that if I stayed in and did the pilot thing for the next 6 years, I was going to miss so much more. I wasn't missing football games. I was missing football seasons. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
I just wasn't getting to participate in my kid's life. So after 14 years of being in the gun club and playing with the boys, my wife and I have been building this business, and some business partners of ours, we've been building this business on the side, and the opportunity presented itself to go ahead and take my exit from the Marine Corps and chase building the franchise full time. So I made that transition around 2015, and that's also when we moved back to the Woodlands area around 2015, 2016.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Wow. So what steps did you take? So you went from hosting an 8-woman boot camp, watching it grow, then took the step and said, I'm going to start an actual business out of this, and we're going to open up a gym specifically for women. So what steps did you take to transition to create that business?
This is something I'm really passionate about. And I don't know if you'd asked the kid that started it, he wouldn't have been able to give you the answer. Mm-hmm. But now, being 14 years on the other side of seeing this process play out, I am very passionate about this. So one of my favorite all-time Steve Jobs quotes is, the moment you realize that everything you see around you was built by men and women no smarter than you, is the moment you can do anything. And I'm really passionate about that because I understand, I made a post about it this morning, a lot of people think when you drive down the road and you see these brands or when you see these great products or services, I know I did. Growing up in Southeast Texas, not being from a family of entrepreneurs or business people, when I would drive down the road and see brands, I didn't believe that I could create something like that. I never did, right? Because where am I going to get the millions of dollars of startup? How am I going to perfect the product? I'm not going to be able to come up with that good of an idea. That's not the way it happens, ever, right?
Right.
It's all from taking action. And that's the number one thing I've watched. How did we do it? Literally by just taking one step in front of the other. Every quarter, every 90 days, just trying to make it a little better than it was the last quarter. The whole time we were building Delta Life, from the boot camp in the parking lot to becoming something that rivals Orange Theory at the openings, we would always say, along that entire journey, we would say, Delta Life's not perfect, but one thing we can promise you is 1 quarter from now, it'll look nothing like it looks right now. With just constant, steady improvement, 1 quarter at a time. The Marine Corps taught me that. We have a saying in the Marine Corps, we have a bias for action. In fact, when you go to officer candidate school, they work with the young lieutenants to just make a decision. They don't care if it's the right decision, they don't care if it's the wrong decision. Because they understand that most people, we get stuck in paralysis by analysis and fear of what can go wrong. And we want all the data and we want all the certainty before we take a step. That's unfortunately never going to be there, right? The only way to get more data, take your best shot at it with what you know and have right now. Put yourself out there in the world, get that feedback, make adjustments. We call it the OODA loop, and that's what the Marine Corps calls it. And they say that whoever can make the most revolutions of this cycle on the battlefield wins, and I've seen it holds true in business. So OODA loop means observe, orient, decide, and act. So success or building something is never a straight line. It's a bunch of evolutions or revolutions of that OODA loop. Observing, orienting, decide, make a decision, get more data, observe, orient, decide, and act again. So when I look back and think about how we were able to do it, there was never 1 quarter that it was like, oh, there's the one thing that's going to take us over the edge. That's not it. It's standing in the face of resistance and just taking one step at a time, quarter after quarter.
Absolutely. Wow. That's inspiring. Very, very inspiring. So from Delta Fitness, you now own, is it Offer Genius?
Yep, so the former chief marketing officer of Delta Life Fitness, he was our chief marketing officer for about 4 years. He's owned several businesses himself. His name is Cody. He was in San Diego when the pandemic first hit and everything. He relocated his family here to Texas, and now he and I have Offer Genius. So after spending all that time in Delta Life, understanding how to build a concept with a persona, understanding what makes people click on an advertisement, how to get lead generation, set shows, conversions, retentions, and reactivations for membership models. That's what we've spent the last decade, he and I, ruthlessly studying that to build that acquisition system for Delta Life. Pandemic was tough. After working that long to build that franchise, pandemic was very tough. Me and my wife finally made our full exit out of Delta Life at the beginning of this year, and that's what we're doing now. So we're taking everything we learned, and Delta Life's, the investors have Delta Life, and they're still doing their thing. And so now me and Cody are building these client acquisition systems for all these other membership models. It's the part I love the most. I love thinking about the persona. How do you build a product that can really be in a category of one and get the attention of the consumer,
right,
and then knowing what to do to get the lead, the set, the show, and the conversion. I'm obsessed with it. I really enjoy it. So that's what I get to do now.
That's awesome. So you transitioned from Delta Life Fitness,
yep,
to Offer Genius.
That's it.
And you enjoy, I'm going to assume, marketing.
I love
trying to create a story out of the product.
Yes.
That's also very awesome. So you've come a long way, I can say. Looking at the timeline from boot camp to creating your own fitness studio to now a marketing agency, I feel like you've really found your passion. That's amazing. And so what are some tips or maybe just some advice you would give young professionals who are trying to find their own passion and their path?
Yeah. Andre, that's a great question. And you're right, like at 37, doing all these different, and so much of them had overlap, right? 14 years in the Marine Corps and 14 years building Delta Life. There was, obviously I'm not 60 years old, so there was a lot of overlap between those two. But,
right,
a wife, 3 kids, moving 15 times, 3 combat deployments, the businesses. It's been a lot to not even be 40 yet.
Absolutely.
to still be in the 30s. Young professionals, I'll tell you, my whole journey has not been easy, but there's been a lot of resistance. There's been a lot of setbacks. There's been a lot of tears and crying nights. There's been days of just laying in the bathtub crying, feeling sorry for myself. It's not easy. So that's one thing I want young professionals to know. If you reach for the stars, if you want to go for the glass ceiling, you have to also figure out how to be okay with the glass floor, because you could fall through it, right?
Right.
If you're going to get out of your comfort zone and go for the glass ceiling, you got to be prepared for the glass floor. Now, I've fallen through a couple of glass floors. It's not fun. I've reached through some glass ceilings that I never thought would be possible, but I've also fallen through some glass floors. What I would tell a young professional, wherever you're at in your journey right now, to find your passion and what you like and what you can take, you've got to do some things, and you got to try some things, right? And you should, no matter what you go do or what position you find yourself in, if you can learn to become a value-driven professional and always be building your assets, that's the best way to, as you continue to grow and get confidence, to have the faith to go for that glass ceiling and not being afraid of the glass floor. What I mean by that, we all have ideas, we all want to do things, but as soon as we start trying them, we start getting hit with resistance. And because that's the only way to working through that resistance and finding what's on the other side is the only way to build something great. Mm-hmm. But a lot of times when we get hit with that resistance, we have imposter syndrome, we feel like a failure, we think, well, why did I even think I could do this, or why did I even think this could work? We stop ourselves, right, with that kind of mindset. So if you can learn to push through that, embrace the failure, that's huge. Know that everything you try to do, it is not gonna go smoothly. You are gonna get punched in the face by resistance. But the more resistance you overcome, the greater skill sets you build. The next one I would tell young professionals is, because there's times I was in the Marine Corps, getting paid the same as the guy next to me, building these never focus on that. If you ever catch yourself in a job and you're thinking, I'm getting paid the same as this person next to me and they don't put it near the same amount of work as I do, you're not doing it for where you're at right then. You're doing it for those future opportunities, right? So like, if you're there getting paid the same as the person next to you, but you're continuing to be a value-driven professional and build your assets and your tool belt, whatever you do next, that's where the opportunity comes. People are watching. People see you. People want to invest in young professionals. When people see young professionals with the grit and the work ethic and not afraid to take some chances, people want to support them. If financially, they want to back them. They want to invest in them. I've seen this several times. But so if you feel yourself getting frustrated because you're getting paid the same as the person sitting next to you, and you feel like you put in a lot more work than them, you should be proud of that. You should lean into that, because the way you can ultimately be okay with the glass ceiling, glass floor thing. Another one of my favorite quotes is, "A bird sitting on a branch is never afraid of the branch breaking, because her faith isn't in the branch, it's in her own wings," right? When you think about building your tools and becoming a value-driven professional and figuring out how to solve problems for other people, you don't have to have an entitlement. You can let a lot of the ego go. You can have a lot of trying to prove yourself to the world. You have faith that you can bring value to the world. So a lot of your anxiety goes away, and you don't have to face that imposter syndrome as much. You can continue to take the steps you need to become what you want to become, but it's painful, and you got to embrace it.
Awesome. Yeah, I really like that. You mentioning that, there's the ups and downs in trying to walk that path of life, really, finding your journey, the zigzags. So it just kind of reminds me of, a graph, like a market graph, and how the market goes up and down. When it's down, it really hurts. It hurts everyone.
Absolutely. You've probably seen the meme, the success meme. It shows like what people think it is, and then it shows a squiggly
Right,
line.
yes, I have seen that. And it's like, or the iceberg too.
Oh, yeah.
That tiny iceberg that dips out the water, and it's like, there are things you don't see, and it's, the long nights, the exhaustion, the wanting to give up, stuff like that. Yes, those they're very inspirational graphs.
See, we all know that when we think about it, right? Like we all say it, like, oh yeah, to be successful, you got to have some bumps and failures.
Right.
But think about the last time, and be honest with yourself, because that is too. We're human. The last time you tried to do something new, whenever you had a really bad failure, or when that zigzag went back the other way, did you tell yourself like, oh, you're fine, just hang in there? It's tough, right?
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
we know that any great story, every story you watch, and when you watch a movie, right? Like, movie starts off, the hero tries to do something, he can't, he's faced with this giant problem, he overcomes a bunch of struggle, and then achieves success at the end, and everybody's like, that's life, right? Like,
right.
But sometimes if we get too romantic, thinking we can just go straight there, and then the first sign of being derailed, we lose the confidence, which makes us stop taking action, which means we can't get better. It's that resistance can stop everything. Yeah,
absolutely. Wow, that was awesome. So is there anything else you'd like to share before we...
No, just especially, I just want to say something to the young professionals in this group. It's everybody out there right now, and I'm going to steal this from another friend of mine, but she used to say all the time, a lot of people say, and I know young professionals aren't kids, but, they're young, and, every generation is always saying, oh, the generation below us doesn't have the work ethic or anything like that. You guys know better. You young professionals out there in this area, I've seen you guys, you're amazing, your work ethic, we love you and support you. Keep it up, keep your head up, keep learning, keep growing, keep doing things. A lot of people say, or the lady, she used to say, a lot of people say, man, kids these days. But she would say, man, kids these days. Like I said, I know the young professionals aren't kids. I'm one of them. I still think I'm a bit of a kid, but that's all I'll say. You're in the greatest community. It really is. The business opportunity here is amazing. The professionals around you, both going up the ladder and down, young to old, everybody supports everybody. If you're a young professional in this area, you're in a great place. Keep being that value-driven professional. Reach out for help, and we need you guys. Everybody that's above us, they're getting tired. It's time for us all to grab the reins. So stay motivated. Reach out. If anybody listening ever has any questions for me, you can reach me at josh@offergenius.com. On Facebook, you can find me. You can shoot me a message. More than happy to help any of our young professionals in this area.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Josh, for coming on today and speaking about your story, your journey, and your walk in life. It's been very, truly inspiring to hear from you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you.